Trevor Blackstone announced the company's decision to restructure my position as he pushed a fresh contract across the polished wooden table. He informed me that my compensation would be reduced by half, and that I'd be transferred to administrative duties. The arrogance in his tone was the same insufferable attitude I'd endured for 5 long years. He continued bluntly, explaining that the company had only valued me for my appearance in client meetings and that my usefulness had expired. I remained motionless in shock, keeping my hands clasped while trying to comprehend the situation unfolding before me. Less than a day ago, I had successfully secured the most substantial agreement in Horizon Marine Group's entire existence. A $1.3 billion deal for 4 bespoke luxury yachts with the Al Rashid Investment Group. The taste of champagne from our celebratory dinner the night before still lingered, and now I faced this betrayal. My identity is Sierra Donovan, age 37, and I have committed half a decade to establishing Horizon Marine Group as the leading luxury yacht builder along the eastern seaboard. My expertise centered on selling ultra-premium vessels to wealthy international buyers, cultivating professional relationships that required years to develop properly. Each morning from my office window facing Boston Harbor, I observed the dawn illuminate the water in golden hues as I prepared for another day of finalizing multimillion-dollar transactions. The Al Rashid agreement represented far more than a simple business deal. It demonstrated the culmination of my professional achievements. The project involved 4 custom luxury yachts, each designed as a magnificent floating residence tailored to the client's specific requirements. The negotiation had consumed 18 months, involving numerous journeys to Dubai and London, plus more midnight conference calls than I could remember. Yet I had successfully completed it, securing not only the primary sale but also ongoing service agreements and potential future projects that might generate an additional $1 billion in income. I managed to speak despite my confusion, keeping my voice controlled while rage built within me. I pointed out that this agreement represented the company's greatest achievement and that my earnings should reflect that success. Trevor interrupted me with a condescending gesture. He questioned whether I believed I deserved compensation for simply appearing attractive and charming in client meetings. He dismissed my contribution, claiming the actual work belonged to the design and engineering teams while I merely served as an appealing representative for wealthy customers. The remaining executives surrounding the table, individuals I had regarded as professional peers and even personal friends, refused to meet my eyes. Some focused on their devices while others shuffled documents, but nobody defended me. Their silence spoke volumes, and I suddenly understood how disposable they had always viewed me. As Trevor elaborated on my forthcoming duties involving document management and telephone reception, something transformed within me. A composed, strategic mindset emerged that reminded me precisely why I had demanded specific provisions in my initial employment agreement 5 years earlier. Trevor had overlooked something crucial, and his overconfidence would soon destroy him completely. 5 years prior, when I initially joined Horizon Marine Group, I lacked the experienced sales expertise I possess today. I had recently departed Newport Shipyard following an unpleasant situation with a discriminatory manager, who attempted to claim responsibility for my accomplishments. I was resolved never to experience such vulnerability again. When Horizon presented the opportunity to establish their luxury yacht department from nothing, I ensured my agreement included protections that most professionals never consider. My maritime law background combined with my Boston University MBA had prepared me to analyze every detail of contractual agreements. While Trevor and other executives concentrated on typical compensation and benefit packages, I was incorporating provisions that would protect my professional work and client relationships. Clause 51A was embedded within the complex legal terminology, a stipulation declaring that any organizational changes or role reductions before complete commission payment would immediately invalidate my client responsibilities and cancel existing agreements I had personally negotiated. The legal team barely examined it during review, being more focused on competition restrictions and intellectual property safeguards. However, I understood that in yacht sales, professional relationships were paramount, and I wanted protection ensuring my efforts couldn't be appropriated from me. My initial 2 years at Horizon presented significant challenges. I was developing a customer base from zero, participating in boat exhibitions from Miami to Monaco, building connections at elite gatherings where a single discussion might result in a $50 million transaction. I mastered communicating with the extremely wealthy, comprehending their requirements for discretion, opulence, and uniqueness. My customers weren't simply purchasing vessels. They were acquiring floating symbols of prestige that demonstrated their achievement and refinement. Trevor had appeared different initially, or maybe I was too inexperienced to recognize his authentic character. He seemed encouraging of my work, appearing genuinely impressed by my early achievements. My first significant transaction involved a $40 million vessel for a technology executive from Seattle. Trevor celebrated with me over dinner, expressing confidence in my promising company future. I should have detected the condescending subtext, but I was too concentrated on establishing my credibility. Throughout the years, my client connections strengthened. The Al-Rashid family evolved beyond mere customers. They respected my knowledge and trusted my recommendations. When they expressed interest in expanding their collection, I invested months developing a proposal that would surpass their expectations. The 4 luxury yachts represented more than purchases. They were commitments to a sustained partnership spanning potentially decades. Yet as my achievements increased, so did my male colleagues' resentment. They started questioning my approaches, insinuating that my results were somehow illegitimate due to my gender. The gossip began subtly: remarks about my clothing selections, speculation regarding my client interactions, suggestions that my success stemmed from factors other than my abilities and dedication. I had attempted to overlook the poisonous atmosphere developing at Horizon, concentrating instead on my customers and sales performance. But seated in that meeting room, hearing Trevor's harsh rejection of my accomplishments, I understood that my tolerance had finally been exhausted. The instant Trevor concluded his degrading presentation about my revised position, I calmly retrieved my phone. His confident expression wavered slightly as I began composing a message, but he persisted in discussing transition schedules and diminished duties, obviously savoring what he believed was his victorious moment. "Are you paying attention?" he demanded sharply, irritation evident in his tone. "Absolutely," I responded without raising my eyes from my device. "I'm simply handling some pressing matters." Trevor was unaware that I was writing an email to Hassan al-Rashid's legal representatives, officially implementing Clause 51A from my employment agreement. The provision was unambiguous. Any attempt to reorganize my position or decrease my payment before complete commission settlement would immediately terminate my authority to represent Horizon Marine Group in all current client relationships. More significantly, it granted my clients legal authority to withdraw from any agreements I had facilitated on Horizon's behalf. I transmitted the message while Trevor was describing how my new administrative responsibilities would commence the subsequent Monday. "I'm concerned that won't be feasible," I announced, finally looking up from my phone with an expression that made his confidence waver. "What did you say?" "I stated that won't be feasible, Trevor. You see, 5 years ago when I executed my agreement with Horizon, I incorporated several protective provisions. Clause 51A specifically addresses circumstances exactly like this one." I rose from my seat, collecting my items with the same calm professionalism I had displayed throughout his insulting presentation. "What are you referring to?" "I'm referring to the fact that you just breached my employment contract terms by attempting to reorganize my position and decrease my compensation before distributing the commissions I've earned. The Al-Rashid agreement I finalized yesterday, the $1.3 billion contract. I just notified their legal team that Horizon no longer possesses authorization to continue with that arrangement." Trevor's complexion turned ashen. "You cannot do that." "Actually, I can, and I have," I replied, placing my phone in my bag and moving toward the exit. "The provision was examined and approved by your legal department when I executed my original agreement. Every detail was recorded and stored with human resources." "Sierra, wait," Trevor called out, his voice stripped of all arrogance and filled with barely hidden desperation. "Let's approach this logically. Perhaps we acted too hastily regarding the reorganization." "Too hastily?" I turned to confront him, and for the first time in 5 years, I allowed my fury to surface. You declared that my only value was my appearance. You attempted to claim my commission on the largest transaction in company history. You degraded me before my colleagues. There's nothing logical remaining to discuss. The other executives were urgently conferring among themselves, finally grasping the severity of what had just occurred. But their realization came too late. My phone was already receiving notifications from Hassan al-Rashid's team acknowledging my communication and requesting an immediate conference to discuss their alternatives. I exited that meeting room understanding that by Monday morning, Horizon Marine Group would confront the most severe crisis in its 4-decade existence, and Trevor Blackstone would finally experience what powerlessness felt like. By Friday evening, my phone had been constantly active. Trevor had attempted to reach me 17 times, each message more frantic than the previous. The legal department had contacted me through 3 separate methods, and even the company's founder, Gregory Horizon, had left a message requesting an urgent discussion about what he termed a misunderstanding. However, no misunderstanding existed. I spent Friday evening in my Boston residence, overlooking the harbor where Horizon's showroom glowed with illumination, systematically examining every document connected to the Al-Rashid agreement. My legal education hadn't been wasted during these years. I had maintained detailed documentation of every discussion, every correspondence, every promise made during the 18-month negotiation period. Saturday morning brought an unexpected visitor to my door. Through the peephole, I observed Trevor standing in the corridor, appearing as though he hadn't rested. His typically immaculate appearance was disheveled, his costly clothing wrinkled, and his face bore the burden of someone who had spent the night understanding his career was about to collapse. "Sierra, please," he pleaded when I opened the door. "We must talk." "I believe you expressed everything necessary yesterday," I responded, not welcoming him inside. "I committed an error, a terrible error. The board convenes Monday morning, and if the Al-Rashid agreement is truly invalidated." He ran his fingers through his hair in a gesture that might have appeared vulnerable if I hadn't known him for 5 years. The company could face insolvency. 40 years of operation, hundreds of workers. "Fascinating how you're suddenly worried about others' financial security," I observed, leaning against my doorframe while studying his panicked demeanor. "Yesterday you seemed quite comfortable destroying mine." "I was mistaken, completely mistaken. Your work on the Al-Rashid account was exceptional. The entire approach, the relationship development, everything. I allowed my pride to interfere and spoke words that were unforgivable." He paused, clearly struggling with phrases that felt unfamiliar. "I apologize, Sierra. Genuinely apologize." For a brief moment, I nearly felt sympathy for him. Trevor appeared truly shattered, and despite everything, I had spent 5 years collaborating with him. But then I recalled his conference room statements, the smugness when he declared I was only valuable for my appearance, and my determination solidified. "Your apology doesn't alter what you revealed about yourself and this organization," I said quietly. "For 5 years I developed relationships, finalized agreements, and produced millions in income. The moment I accomplished something truly remarkable, you attempted to claim the recognition and demote me to clerical work. The board will restore your position, your complete salary, your commission, everything. We can repair this." I shook my head. "You cannot repair trust, Trevor. You cannot repair the fact that you demonstrated exactly how dispensable you consider me, and you certainly cannot repair the legal ramifications of breaching my contract." As if perfectly timed, my phone chimed with a text from Hassan al-Rashid himself. "Emergency conference requested for Monday, 9 a.m. Dubai time. Contract status requires immediate clarification." "That's my client," I said, displaying Trevor the message. "He's requesting clarification about the agreement status. By Monday morning, Horizon's largest transaction in company history will be officially terminated, and you're powerless to prevent it." Trevor's face turned white. Sierra, please consider this logically. You're not only harming me, you're destroying innocent people's careers. I am considering this logically, I responded. I'm thinking about a woman who invested 18 months creating something extraordinary only to be declared worthless upon achieving success. I'm thinking about every other woman who might enter that conference room after me and endure the same degradation. I stepped backward and began closing the door. Farewell, Trevor. I'll be monitoring the news Monday morning to observe how the board explains losing $1.3 billion to their investors. The door closed with a click, leaving Trevor alone in the hallway bearing the burden of his company's fate. Sunday brought an unexpected call from Hassan al-Rashid himself. It was 6 a.m. Boston time, meaning afternoon in Dubai. I had anticipated this conversation, but hearing Hassan's recognizable voice still created a surge of anxious energy. "Sierra, my friend," he said, his English carrying the subtle accent that had become familiar during our 18 months of negotiations. "I received some very troubling communications from your legal department yesterday." "Hassan," I responded, settling into my kitchen chair with coffee in hand. "I imagine you have concerns about the contract status." "Indeed I do. Your communication indicated that Horizon Marine Group no longer possesses authorization to proceed with our arrangement. This surprises me given our celebration just 3 days ago." I breathed deeply, knowing this discussion would determine not only my future but Hassan's perception of my professional ethics. "Hassan, I need to explain what occurred after our deal was completed." I described the entire situation: Trevor's demotion decision, the compensation reduction, his insulting remarks, and the legal provision that granted me authority to invalidate client contracts under these conditions. Hassan listened silently, and I could sense his increasing anger through the phone. "This Trevor Blackstone," Hassan said after I finished, his voice controlled but furious, "claimed you were only valuable for your appearance?" Those were his precise words. A lengthy silence followed. Hassan al-Rashid was a conventional businessman who prioritized respect and honor above everything else. Throughout our 18 months of collaboration, he had consistently treated me as an equal, appreciating my expertise and judgment. Learning that my own company had disrespected me so fundamentally would deeply offend him. "Sierra," he said finally, "in our culture we say the tree bearing the most fruit receives the most stones. You have been providing fruit to ungrateful people. Hassan, I want you to understand that this situation doesn't reflect the yacht quality or design team capabilities at Horizon. The product remains exceptional." "No," he interrupted firmly. "You misunderstand. I'm not worried about the yachts. Yachts can be constructed by numerous companies, but finding someone with your integrity, your vision, your understanding of our requirements, this is uncommon." My pulse quickened as I anticipated where this discussion was leading. "I have a proposal for you," Hassan continued. "The Al-Rashid Group has been contemplating establishing our own marine consulting department. We need someone to supervise our yacht purchases, collaborate directly with manufacturers, manage our expanding fleet. This individual would answer directly to me, operate with unlimited resources, and earn considerably more than any Horizon Marine Group salary." "Hassan, are you proposing employment?" "I'm proposing partnership, Sierra. You would become our Marine Assets Director based in Dubai with necessary travel. Your initial assignment would involve supervising construction of our 4 yachts, not with Horizon, but with whatever manufacturer you suggest. Complete independence, complete confidence." The situation's irony was remarkable. By attempting to diminish my worth, Trevor had accidentally directed my most valuable client straight to me. Hassan wasn't simply rescuing me from a harmful environment. He was presenting the career opportunity of my lifetime. "The compensation would triple what you earned at Horizon," he added. "Plus ownership in our marine department, plus performance bonuses connected to fleet value growth. Are you interested in discussing specifics?" I gazed out my window at Boston Harbor, where Horizon's building gleamed in the morning sunlight, and smiled. Hassan, I'm extremely interested. Excellent. Can you arrive in Dubai by Wednesday? We have extensive planning ahead. As I ended the call, I understood that Trevor's attempt to ruin my career had instead launched me toward something far exceeding what I had ever thought possible. Monday morning brought all the chaos I had expected. I awakened to 17 missed calls and 43 unread emails, mostly from Horizon Marine Group in various stages of panic. However, the most intriguing message came from Gregory Horizon himself, the company founder who rarely participated in daily operations anymore. Sierra, his voicemail began, I've been informed about the situation with Trevor and the Al Rashid agreement. I want you to understand that his behavior doesn't represent the principles this company was established on. Please contact me immediately. We must discuss how to proceed. Rather than returning his call, I dressed in my finest business attire and drove to Horizon's headquarters for what I knew would be my final visit as an employee. The structure that had been my professional home for 5 years suddenly seemed alien, as though I was observing it through a stranger's perspective. The entrance was unusually subdued, with security personnel positioned at the elevators. Management was obviously anticipating some form of conflict. I ascended to the executive level where the entire leadership team had assembled in the primary conference room. Through the transparent walls, I could observe intense discussions occurring around several tables. Sierra, Gregory Horizon rose immediately upon my arrival in the reception area. At 73, he remained a commanding presence with silver hair and the type of authority that demanded respect. Thank goodness you're here. We must resolve this matter immediately. Mr. Horizon, I replied courteously. I assume you've examined the specifics of my contract provision. I have, and I've also examined the circumstances that triggered its activation. His expression grew stern as he glanced toward the conference room where Trevor was gesturing frantically at a group of board members. Trevor's actions were unforgivable, Sierra. Completely unforgivable. I value that recognition. More than recognition, I want to rectify this. Trevor is being dismissed immediately, effective today. I'm prepared to offer you his position as sales vice president with a 50% salary increase, complete commission on the Al Rashid transaction, and a formal board apology. The offer was generous, exceeding what I had ever anticipated when I first activated Clause 51A. But sitting in that reception area, observing the turmoil I had created through the conference room windows, I realized my outlook had fundamentally changed. Mr. Horizon, I appreciate the proposal, but I'm afraid I retrieved my phone and displayed the email I had composed that morning. Hassan Al Rashid has offered me a position as Marine Assets Director for the Al Rashid Group. I'll be supervising their yacht acquisitions globally, collaborating with whatever manufacturers I choose to recommend. My first decision will be selecting a new partner for their 4-yacht project. Gregory's eyes expanded as he read the email contents. Sierra, that's an extraordinary opportunity. It is, and it never would have materialized if Trevor hadn't shown me exactly what my Horizon future would resemble. I stood up, extending my hand for a final farewell. I'll be submitting my resignation today, effective immediately. The Al Rashid contract withdrawal is already proceeding. As I walked toward the elevator, I could hear the explosion of voices from the conference room behind me. By tomorrow, the industry would be discussing news of Horizon's loss and my dramatic career transformation. But I was no longer looking backward. I was looking toward Dubai, toward a future where my expertise would be valued rather than exploited. 3 weeks later, I was seated in Hassan Al Rashid's Dubai office, gazing out at the Persian Gulf while we completed agreements with Benetti Yachts in Italy for the 4 mega-yacht project. The irony wasn't lost on me. Horizon had forfeited a $1.3 billion contract, and I was now supervising an even larger $1.8 billion transaction with their rival. My phone alerted me to a news update from Marine Industry Weekly. Horizon Marine Group confronts financial crisis after losing historic agreement. The report described how the company's stock had dropped 40% in 3 weeks, forcing them to terminate 60 employees and abandon their planned European market expansion. Trevor Blackstone's name was absent from the article. According to my former colleagues who occasionally contacted me, he had been quietly dismissed the Monday following our confrontation, with the board citing inappropriate conduct and fiduciary duty violation. His successor, Jennifer Walsh, had immediately contacted me to apologize for Trevor's behavior and inquired about any possibility of preserving the Al-Rashid relationship. I had politely refused. Hassan entered the office carrying 2 cups of traditional Arabic coffee, a custom we had maintained throughout our business relationship. "The agreements are complete," he announced with satisfaction. "Benetti will commence construction on the first yacht next month. They estimate 18 months for finishing all 4 vessels." "Excellent," I replied, accepting the coffee. "The schedule aligns perfectly with our fleet expansion objectives." "Sierra, I have news that might interest you," Hassan said, settling into his chair with a slight smile. "I received a call yesterday from Gregory Horizon himself." I raised an eyebrow. "Really?" He wanted to discuss the possibility of Horizon submitting proposals for future Al-Rashid projects. Apparently, they are quite desperate for new agreements. Hassan's smile broadened. I informed him that all marine procurement decisions now proceed through our Marine Assets Director. The satisfaction of that moment was beyond description. In less than a month, I had transformed from being dismissed as attractive decoration to wielding the authority to determine Horizon's future in the luxury yacht industry. 6 months into my new position, I was attending the Monaco Yacht Show as the Al-Rashid Group's representative when I witnessed the complete extent of my revenge's consequences. The exhibition was the industry's most prestigious gathering where yacht manufacturers, designers, and purchasers assembled to display luxury marine vessel innovations. I was examining a beautiful new super yacht when a recognizable voice spoke my name. Looking around, I saw Jennifer Walsh, Trevor's replacement at Horizon, approaching with what appeared to be forced cheerfulness. "Sierra, it's delightful to see you here," she said, though her smile appeared strained. "How are you enjoying your new position?" "Tremendously," I responded warmly. Jennifer wasn't accountable for Trevor's behavior, and I harbored no resentment toward her. "How are conditions at Horizon?" Her expression faltered slightly. "We're rebuilding. The Al-Rashid situation created some difficulties, but we're managing them." What she omitted was what everyone in the industry already understood. Horizon Marine Group was fighting to survive. Losing the Al-Rashid contract had initiated a series of financial problems. Their expansion plans had been abandoned, their workforce decreased by 30%, and several smaller clients had transferred their business to competitors after learning about the company's internal culture issues. "I wanted you to know," Jennifer continued, "that we've established new policies to ensure Trevor's situation never reoccurs. HR has required sensitivity training, we've restructured our commission system for greater fairness, and we've hired external consultants to examine our workplace culture." "That's encouraging," I said sincerely. "The industry needs companies that respect all their employees." Jennifer nodded, then hesitated before adding, "If you ever consider returning to yacht sales in the United States." I smiled politely but remained silent. My future was no longer connected to companies that had to learn through harsh consequences how to treat their people with dignity. That evening, as I observed the sunset over Monaco Harbor from the deck of Hassan's newest acquisition, I contemplated how dramatically my life had transformed. Trevor's attempt to humiliate me had instead propelled me into an influential position I never could have envisioned at Horizon. The finest revenge, I understood, wasn't simply escaping a toxic environment. It was succeeding so completely that your former oppressors could only observe from the margins as you ascended beyond their influence.